New cars come with large screens, internet connectivity, and access to an ecosystem of digital services, both inside and outside the vehicle. This drives the connection between product manufacturers, service providers, and customers, truly transforming the car into a connected experience. Manufacturers are exploring new ways to take care of the digital aspects of their products early in the process, offering continuous value to their customers. There are new challenges and opportunities. Do we have to evolve the virtual twin? How do industry standards like COVESA change the game? How are manufacturers adopting new business models? 3DEXCITE talks to experts from around the world to spark new ideas and innovation. Welcome to 3DIGNITE, live from the 3D Experience Lab in Munich.
Hello and welcome to the 3D Experience Lab Munich. My name is Fabien, I'm director of this lab. Today I'm delighted to host the next expert panel, 3DIGNITE. Matthias, what can we expect?
Thanks, Fabien. Today we talk about connected experiences, a subject that is going to define the future of mobility for all of us. My name is Matthias and I'm the director of strategy for 3DEXCITE. And I'm more than happy that we were able to assemble such a great lineup of speakers. You will get to know them in a minute. I'm expecting a lively discussion, and I'm expecting a few insights into the subject from our experts. But now is the time to invite the person on stage that is going to lead today's panel. So please welcome Raj.
Hi, thank you so much. Hi. Hello and welcome to the second installment of 3DIGNITE series here at 3D Experience Lab in Munich. Today we're going to be talking about connected experiences, and that means from launch to continuous engagement. My name is Raj and I used to work in customer experience, so I'm really excited to see what continuous engagement means in the future of mobility. Now, if you are feeling inspired while you're watching, then please feel free to post a photo or a screenshot with a quote from our panel, and remember to use the hashtag 3DIGNITE. We'd love to see you online. If you are watching through YouTube, remember to log into YouTube. After our discussion, we will be taking questions from our virtual audience, and you can't post a question unless you're logged in. So please make sure you are. And then without further ado, let's get the panel up here. So first, we have the owner and managing director of Contrast Moment, Andreas Waldemeier. A professor at Munich Business School and head of digital customer experiences at Unity, we have Dr. and Professor Hans Young. Dassault Systems' very own Director of Transportation and Mobility, we have Frédéric Messeron. Frédéric, please have a seat. And once again, virtual is no challenge for our team here, so we were able to get live from Detroit the Vice President of Co-Innovation, IT and IoT Alliances at Bosch, Dr. Dirk Slama. There we go, great. Hi Dirk, thanks for joining us. So here we are, throwing around this new word, connected experiences, and yet I spoke to all of you and they kind of meant something different to each of you. So why don't we just start there and we'll talk about what does connected experiences mean to each of you. And Hans, why don't you go first?
Thanks for asking the question. I think it's really important. Connected experience is something which made our life the last 2 years. Where would have we been without being able to connect virtually, digital, and do all the things we need to do to make our living. So connectivity is really the key issue for the next couple of years for companies. Mm-hmm. And especially getting to know customers, learning about customers, being able to serve customers much better is the question of learning and getting and using data and getting closer to the customer than anybody else. That's the race which is going on between all the industries at the moment. Who gets closest to the customer, who offers the best and most seamlessly connections which make life for consumers and business customers easier. That's the key question, I guess.
I'm going to go online to Dirk. Dirk, you had mentioned smart connected products, and you were the one that actually brought up this, what does connected experiences mean? So we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, first of all, hello everybody. I hope you can hear me, and glad to join you here for this exciting event. So connected experience really from an end customer point of view obviously means a better experience. It means bringing together digital services with a physical product experience. And from a product creator and operator's point of view, it really means that, you know, as opposed to how we did this in the past, we manufacture a product and we never hear from it again. We're really now actually seeing and learning how the customers are engaging with the product, how they're using it, and we can really take a holistic customer lifetime value perspective. And I'm very excited to talk with you more about this.
Any other thoughts?
Well, that's bloody right, to be honest. You know, we work in the automotive area, and the user, the driver, is expecting to get everything with him within the car. This won't be possible if it's not connected. And especially to be connected during this pandemic situation saved working places, lives, whatsoever. So it's all about connectivity in the next few years, I think.
So we are talking a lot about vehicle, you know, about ownership. But actually, the trend is going slowly but surely to mobility, to usage. And in that situation, you know, we are talking more about shared vehicle, about rental car, and so on. And in that case, the experience of people is very important. You know, that they get similar experience, they get their habits, their custom, whatever the platform or the car they are using. And for that, you need software, you need connectivity, and you need the capability to make it smooth. Whatever basically the platforms are using. So connectivity is key. Seamless, yes. Yeah.
Is that true for riding a motorbike around?
Actually, this is one of the few places where I'm not connected. You could be connected by wearing a helmet and connecting the telephone to the helmet and to the motorbike, but I have saved some places for my life where I'm unconnected, and I really love that experience too.
Yeah. Very good. There we go. There's still room for it there. I was reading online that McKinsey says new business models could expand automotive revenue by 30%, $1.5 trillion. This is through shared mobility, connectivity, etc. Now, new cars already have internet connectivity, right? We're already using digital services both inside and outside the vehicle, but we're deepening the connections between product manufacturers, the software providers, the service providers, the customer, right? So this brings its own unique challenge. Like, business model is changing. I mean, how is that working? Who's leading that change?
That's a very good question, and I'm really happy to talk about the different industries trying to get closer to the customer. And I just share some figures with you to give you an impression of how many learnings are going on every day. We have more than 1 billion cars on that planet, and roughly 25% are connected yet. By the end of the century, we'll have 90% of the new cars sold connected. Now let's look at the other intelligent area, the tech companies. We have 10 times more connected devices. We have 10 times more mobile phones, wearables, iPads, and all the other stuff. And these companies who have produced these kind of products, they'll have a backbone which is much faster to learn, and they have much more opportunities to learn. A car parks 90% of its time on the sideway, while the mobile phone is almost always on. And this gives the opportunity to companies to learn extremely fast. And this is one of the driving forces of being able to provide true customer centricity, being able to learn from customers every second.
And to do that, actually, you need some new vehicle, you know, some new platform. And the OEM right now and the supplier are really going into this transformation. You know, to provide, first they are building some new brand, you know, that are managing the mobility, like Mobilize for Renault, and every OEM has their own brand to manage fleet and so on. And they need to develop vehicle for this brand. And the vehicle for this brand will last much longer than the ones that we are buying today. And they are very simple. You know, they will be on the market in 2-3 years, and they are very close to a phone. You know, that will be an hardware platform with an electronic architecture, an OS, and on top of which you can install continuously software update, whatever all along the life cycle of the vehicle. And this is really important, and this is based on connectivity. This is based on software-defined vehicle concepts, and so on. And this is exactly what I think Dirk is working on, because to make that smooth and easy, you need some kind of standard and common APIs and so on. But maybe Dirk, you can explain better than me.
I think he's talking about COVESA, right?
Well, interestingly, I am actually in Detroit this week at the COVESA quarterly meeting, and it's quite exciting to be here with companies like Ford and Hyundai and BMW and so on, and all working on these concepts. I think we really need to differentiate between the technical perspective, the process perspective, and the business perspective. And starting with the business perspective, I don't think that people know today, what they're looking for. Everybody has these big numbers, what kind of revenue we are expecting from software-enabled services, but how to get there, I think, is still a big question for many. I mean, there's a lot of talk about different examples, like, I don't know, the Tesla dog mode as an example for this kind of connected service. But do you know, as an OEM, whether your customers are actually dog people or cat people, right? And so how do you find out? And that's really bringing us to the process perspective. So the development of these new connected digital features really requires that we apply internet best practices, which are very different from automotive best practices. So we need to be able to have different value streams, a digital value stream and a physical value stream moving at different speeds. The physical value stream, of course, we need to be able to apply this first time right paradigm, where basically there's no excuse, that needs to work. And that's also true for everything that's, controlling the physical behavior of the vehicle. But then there's the digital value stream where we have a lot of convenience features, these kind of like value add-on type of features, which need to be developed, using an internet-style approach where we have minimal viable product, we have continuous improvement, and of course we utilize, you mentioned this early on, over-the-air updates and so on to continuously update and roll this out. And we really need to be able to have the right processes and methods in place. And also, we need an abstraction between these value streams. And that's bringing me to the third part, the technical perspective. So how does the abstraction layer of the future looks like that enables us to move at different speeds in these different value streams? And that's where the whole topic of vehicle APIs is coming in, where basically we want to be able to abstract the complexity of hardware development away so that we can have a new generation of developer building on top of it. And these developers, they don't need 10 years of education on automotive specifics and, I don't know, CAN and FlexRay, signal processing, and so on. They need to be able to actually listen really to the needs of the business people and deploy these kind of value add, what we call QM type of applications on top of it. And really the thing in the middle that's separating this is this vehicle abstraction. Really then enables us to put the digital fast moving and the physical slower moving value stream side by side and moving separated but in sync. And I think that's really the prerequisite, and it's great to be working on this with great companies like Dassault Systems, because I think only if we can agree on the standards along the tool chain also needed to support this, we will be successful. And I'm quite optimistic because so far the collaboration with all the stakeholders in this ecosystem is looking very promising. Brett, is what you had in mind when you triggered me?
Frederick, that was a comprehensive answer, so thank you so much. Yeah, what happens there, where I'm thinking about this software and we think about our mobile phones, as you said earlier, Hans. Andreas, you talked a lot about, if you put Android in every car, then it starts to look a bit androgynous, and then, where do you lose a bit of the special, I've got a BMW, or I've got a Mini, or I've got a Rolls Royce, right? So Are OEMs really going to be on board with this?
Some.
Okay.
And the pressure is quite high, you know. You have to save money, you have to be efficient, sustainable. So it's easier to use Android or something like that instead of doing your own software, even down to the framework, you know. And BMW, the whole group, we've got a lot of brands there. So on the bottom, there's one software. But you can't tell the story. You know, you open up your Rolls Royce, you're approaching the car, and you see a mini software. Just the same like in a BMW or in an Alpine or something. It's not working this way.
You use that great analogy about wine. If you could share that with the audience, that'd be great.
Look, if you pour a wine, it's no matter how good it is or it is in a plastic cup, it tastes like, well, red wine from a plastic cup. But if you tell a story, if you say, you know, this is that vineyard in northern Italy, you have to expect these tastes, these smells, you know, it's this old and stuff like that. It's a completely different experience. It's the same wine.
Yeah.
One is crap, well, and the other one is just marvelous.
It's less expensive.
Yeah. Sorry,
We
less
were
expensive.
crap.
But
yeah,
you know,
okay.
it's a different story.
Yeah, and Frederick, I mean, we talked about connected experiences in this context, though. I mean, this is one of the issues that we have, right? Is that maybe it means evolving the digital twin or something.
Even if you talk about mobility, you know, door-to-door mobility, functionally, you know, you will get the same thing, you know. So what will make a difference when a customer or citizen will choose between different mobility, you know, there is a kind of emotion, you know, of brand image and so on that can make the difference. So yes, I'm fully agree. It's really true. But even more than that, you know, when we talk now about energy, about sustainability, people will maybe choose between two different vehicles from two different fleet or share. What will be my actual CO2 footprint, you know, if I take that one or that one. And it's something you can really measure very precisely, very accurately, with software, with connectivity, because it's not only the car, it's a connection with infrastructure, with the traffic jam, with where you will take your gas or your electricity or your hydrogen, how much it will cost, where it will come from, and so on. And so it's all about software and connectivity all together, you know. So this is why it's not only about just image and thousands of LEDs in the car that you can control and you can change and customize. So it's also about real things that can impact the life of people.
Yeah. And in a very positive way, if you look at the history of connected cars, it already saved a lot of lives because it reduces accidents. So more and more assistance function will help people to manage complex solutions and without much effort. And that's one of the great promises of connectivity in a car and for the car.
So it has already saved lives, you're saying?
It did already save lives, yeah.
Interesting.
You know, maybe you remember the time when you were winking on the motorway, just warning the others on the other side, there's an accident. Nowadays, the car does that. So you can still wink, but the car's faster.
Yeah,
So.
fair. It's a nice analogy.
You have the emergency button, which helps you to contact people in case of accident, which is also a big value for humanity.
You know, one of the things that we spoke about is that, you know, when you look at somebody's home, we use the best of all technology in the home, but it's all different technology, right? So now we have to bring it together in one moving vehicle.
Yeah.
How are we seeing that happen? I mean, we have digital twins, virtual twins already. How do we need to evolve them to be able to address that?
Yeah. What I'm always fascinating about is the interface in the car is the king interface I know, because it's the most complicated interface you will ever see, use, or control in your whole life, unless you're an astronaut or dealing with really sophisticated software. And this capsule is done by one brand, by one manufacturer. If you just think about your flat, you've got climate controls, you've got your telephone, your entertainment systems, all of them. And you've got your office function, stuff like that. And we have to deal with that within one brand, within one interface. And this is really demanding. I don't know who knows BMW, but further on we got just a controller, you know, 4 sides for flipping, 2 turns and 1 pushing. That was all we've got. And since 2015 we've got a touch display, so it helped a lot.
And we even can talk to our car.
Yeah,
It makes life
right.
much easier. Wave to the car to create a certain interaction.
Well, the gestures are quite simple, but it works. It works.
It's a starting point.
Yeah, right.
And these are the examples which make the life of everyday person much easier. And this is the benefits companies can create. And also interesting to see who's now starting to collaborate in that arena. If you look at the car manufacturers, and you mentioned the example, some of the car manufacturers produce their own software stack and hardware stack. Others collaborate. I'm sure you all heard about the Honda and Sony collaboration for new EVs, starting to bring the best of both worlds together to improve cars. And some of the tech companies also start to produce their own cars and their own mobility concepts. Just in July, Zoox managed to be street legal in the US without any further ado. And that's the first fully autonomous car produced by a tech company to support mobility. So there's a lot of things going on, and I guess the dynamic will help the companies to catch up and create more speed to create more benefits for us.
And you were talking about engineering and virtual twin. You know, this is where really what is complex, you know, because you need to have, to make the real car, you need to have a very strong engineering platform, you know, to make sure you have the real behavior of your electronic, of your software, of your mechanics, and so on. And you need also to combine that with the creativity. You know, what does it mean in terms of feeling for the people, cabin experience, you know, welcome experience, and so on. And this is really what we see here on the market, and what we are pushing. You know, is the capability through this virtual twin to have the creative people, which come with a very nice creative way. I would like to do that, and that, and the engineering guys. And very early in the process, to put them together around this virtual twin, to simulate, to validate what does it mean, to align all the stakeholders and be sure this is what you want, this is what it costs, you know. So are we all aligned with that? This is what the customer would like at the end. And to be able, and with the software, that it become even more flexible, because you can change in 1 second the software and you run it again and you have a fully different behavior. So, and combining all this kind of discipline all together, plus the creative and the experience, is really key, and the next generation of virtual twin, basically.
And there's a market here.
This is a really interesting point. Fred, I was just going to say, this is a really good point that you're making there, because I think if you take the comparison to the smartphone industry. The first smartphones came out, and they were very much about, telephony, and then a couple of directly vendor-supplied applications. And only after they started to find out, with an app store, you can actually tap into the creativity potential of external developers. You see loads of new things coming out that nobody would have thought of early on. I'm actually rewatching Big Bang Theory at the moment. I don't know if you've seen it. There's one scene in it where they have a whip sound made by the smartphone, as in kind of like your whip, right? And I mean, who would have thought that you can actually use a gyroscope sensor on your smartphone, acceleration sensor, to create this type of application that then actually, becomes famous in a sitcom. Yeah? And at the moment, I think what we can see in automotive is that it's still very much a closed shop for good reasons, right? Because when automotive applications need to be safety validated and so on. Yeah? But I think over the next couple of decades, it will be really interesting to see if we will see a similar development that the automotive platforms can, from a safety point of view, actually be opened also to tap into the creative potential of an external developer community, and kind of like the potential for new applications that we can unleash with this, I think could be quite tremendous. So really excited to see where this is going.
Entertainment is still a function of connected experiences, right? Hans, please.
Yeah, just the same idea. If you compare the number of apps created in the last 10 years, which make the use of the smart devices even more practical for all of us, there is still a way to go for the automotive industry to manage the safety and cybersecurity elements, and also being able to foster and create communities of developers, not only inside the company and in the existing mechanical value chain, but creating a digital ecosystem where people then can create new applications, which help us to make use of the mobility of the future. That's a real big step for the automotive industry, also in terms of transformation and mind change.
Yeah. And I really see that as a... So we have to go through many steps before that, but we will get that, around some brand, You will get in maybe 10 years some BMW software apps developer that will do tuning of their BMW, and will make a very special, like they are doing today with customizing a lot of things, So why not, to do that and make it personal. This is my BMW, but I'm able also to develop how it behaves, without endangering the safety, of course. Yes.
Not only, I think the customers will expect to have, I use the BMW of my brother. I use my own. I do a car sharing. I'm at the airport. I really expect to have the same experience in every BMW I'm sitting in. But the fun fact is, the hardware is quite robust. Sometimes it feels like out of a German tank or something, It's always vibrating. You have to start the cluster by minus 70 degrees. You can throw away your smartphone at that temperature. So it's not that fair to expect that a car could do the same, because it's heating up in the summer, it's cooling down in Norway. So it's not that easy, but the expectation is there.
Yes.
And do we expect that OEMs are going to take the responsibility for that? Or do we, like you just mentioned, software, there's lots of developers external to the car companies, so...
The OEMs, the car manufacturer, they try to be always fresh. Just that you still plan or do a car for 7 years, you sell it for 7 years, and you do the maintenance 7 years. So it's 21 years. You throw away your phone after 2 years. So it's quite hard to get more impulses, more innovation from outside, but they try to be always fresh or new or something.
And some of that's addressed by COVESA, is that right, Dirk? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes. I'm just trying to think how I make this leap now.
No pressure.
They're all important topics. So yes, privacy is important. I think first and foremost is also about safety. And when you start building these new functions, I think for each new function, for each new feature, you have to understand and how far this is going to impact privacy, security, safety, and so on. Yeah? And what I was trying to say earlier on about development at different speeds. Modern vehicles are complex, and we have to understand that they need to be compartmentalized so that we really understand which parts of the vehicle can move at which speed, meaning which parts of the vehicle are absolutely critical from a functional safety point of view. Yeah? But then if you, let's say, deploy Angry Birds on the vehicle, does this have to be developed using the same rigor, the same homologation approaches, and so on? I would say no. Yeah? So there needs to be a differentiation between autonomous driving and Angry Birds type of software vehicle. And the question is, how can we really, get an architecture? Think of this as a bento box, right? The vehicle of the future. And this bento box has different compartments, and these different compartments have different characteristics in terms of quality of service, reliability, and so on. Yeah? And I think this is really important to understand, because then when you start creating the meal, so to say, where you basically put different things into different elements of the bento box. You have as the head chef, so to say. You have to make sure you understand what goes into which box. Yeah? And I mean, with Angry Birds and automated driving, it's so obvious. But there are a lot of examples where it's not so obvious. I think that's a challenge that you need to be able to address as an OEM in the future, that you really compartmentalize the vehicle, that you have well-defined boundaries. And this is what we're working on here at COVESA, that we identify how we create the interfaces between these different departments of the bento box so that we can ensure functional safety where it's needed, but still have the agility in the other areas. And I think, getting your head around this and getting all the people with you, your architects and your technical people towards this picture is still some way to go for many companies, but I would say that's definitely the target picture.
Frederick, you mentioned, I think you had an example, right? The welcome to the vehicle example was really interesting. Do you mind sharing that?
Yeah, so the welcome sequence, for example, is really a part of the brand image. You were explaining that very, very well. And it's something that people would like to customize and to make it special, whatever the hardware which is on the vehicle, and being able to simulate, what will happen when somebody that will be recognized by the vehicle, with an ID, what will happen in the vehicle when you will open the vehicle, enter the vehicle, how the seat will move, which position it will take, what will happen in terms of messaging, in terms of lighting, and so on. Basically, it's again all about software, and software linked to connectivity, with some software that can be completely off-board, managed on iPhone, managed on server, connected to inboard software. And this is exactly what Dirk was explaining. To make that working and compatible, it has been very well organized in terms of standard, in terms of modularization. So the same kind of modularization that are happening right now on electric cars, where especially for logistic car, utility cars, and so on, you see they have a very modular platform, and you can build whatever vehicle you want on top. It has to go also for software and for electronics. So basically, you can have the same platform, and why not to repurpose it 10 years after for another usage, and so on and so on. So.
And right now we use the virtual twins. Sorry, go ahead, Dirk.
So I think, Frederick, the point that you're making there is really important.
Mm-hmm.
So it's obviously about the target picture, how do we deliver the car, but it's also about the entire process, from the initial idea to building it up to operating it in the field. And what I like about this, digital twin abstraction layer that we're working on here in the context of COVESA is that this means I can start prototyping an application for a new vehicle, and I can build, for example, in the logical sequence, Frederick, like you said, the passenger welcome sequence. Yeah? So let's say I want this sequence to detect the proximity of the driver, and if the driver is close enough, then I want to welcome him using a special warm light type of sequence. Then I want to open the door, and then I want to put the seat in the right position for the driver, right? So that's the idea. And that I need to try out very early. And for this, I want to do this against the digital twin of the virtual vehicle, right? And then over time, actually, I need to replace that with the actual physical components, but against the same interfaces, so that my logic that's controlling these steps of, detect driver, open door, position the seat, doesn't change, because I'm going against the same digital twin type of interfaces, but this time not against the virtual modeled twin, but against the real interfaces on the real vehicle. And that really means that I can implement a kind of divide and conquer type of strategy, because I now have this digital value stream where I can focus on this new passenger welcome type of sequence. And I have my physical work stream where I can start with the simulation with the Dassault platform, for example, and then from there actually go to the real hardware, the real ECUs that I need to control to make this happen. And that's a huge benefit, I think, that we will have out of this, because it means that we can really get a much better grip on the complexity of vehicle development. And it also means that in a step-by-step, from idea to implementation to deployment to operations perspective, I can deploy the right tools for the different tasks at hand. And this is why I think this is so important, this concept. And yeah.
Fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted to get to, so I love that. Go ahead. Even get applause for that one, Dirk.
And once you get this virtual twin, which is exactly how the vehicle is behaving or your mobility, you can even bring it further. You can use it to do as a digital asset, digital channel. To do commercialization on top of that. Maybe on metaverse world. Maybe put it back in the car. To have your own digital virtual twin of your own cars, and to make in-car service commercialization, buy, customization, and so on. But this is your car in which you are driving, and you have it digitally. So you can go even further. As soon as you reach this capability to make it real, and really exactly what is in reality.
Yeah, it takes personalization to a whole other level, doesn't it?
And especially developing of ideas or features are better with that. I remember times being on a parking place at BMW, checking the colors and contrast of the head-up display, and only the driver sees it because no one else in the car sees it. So only he has got the proper side. So we've got 6 people always standing up, sitting on this chair, standing up, the next one, and you could do that with a virtual gear or something, much better, much more efficient, and yeah, it could help. It will help.
Hansi, yeah, exactly. And Hansi, you talked about the increased customer focus when we spoke. Would you like to add any thoughts to that?
Yeah, I just want to take a look from the future into our world. If you imagine a world where data is a part of the currency we have as consumers, and for car manufacturers, another level of complexity will be added to that, because we all know that the currency data has different values in different corners of the world. If we go to America, we can spend a lot of data to create convenience for us, but the financial benefit goes to the one who is offering the platform. Mm-hmm. If we go to China, and you mentioned that already, we give data for the sake of the entire society and for the ones who run the society. And in Europe, we try to build a different concept. For the ones who spend data, they also should financially benefit from giving the data. And these 3 different concepts need to be incorporated in the car of the future to create that personalization, to create also the value generation in these different scenarios. And that's a huge task also for the auto industry, to be aware of that and to use simulation to be prepared for that. Otherwise, you would experience that as a customer in the field, and we all know how bad it is if we have to have different currencies in our pocket and have different values for the currency. So this is something where the car manufacturers also have a task ahead of, but digitalization and simulation will help them to afford that.
Thank you so much. I think that's fantastic. We have room for a couple more questions, and I just wanted to come back to the ecosystem approach because, I'm going to share a little story here. My sister just bought an electric car in London, and, you think it might be the parking or finding the plug, or the plugs don't fit. So we're talking a lot about the connected experience within the vehicle, but actually we need the ecosystem. We need to talk to the external factors that will impact that as well, right? Yeah. So, I heard from all of you a bit differently about the ecosystem and how that will have an impact, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on, do we think we're getting there?
We will. We will. But
diplomatic.
I think the car will be a platform to show things, to invite things into your car, in your personal capsule of interaction. I don't think BMW is Apple or Netflix or some major game developer, There's no sense in doing Candy Crush again in the car. Mm-hmm. And if you play it on your phone, you won't play it on the sender stack over there. So you just want to use the same controls. You want to have your own thing. Mm-hmm. So it's divided and connected. So, sorry. I don't have any clear or more clear answer to that, but there's a big future ahead.
No, that's great. And the reason I brought it up is because Frederick brought up this idea of this interconnected software with the parking around the city and with the different components that are out there. And that to me is almost like, again, we talked about it becomes customer facing. The user needs to tell you what they need rather than here's BMW and select, or Audi or any car company, and here you can personalize just by selecting what we have available. It's now getting a bit flipped on its head, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely, especially if you think about a time where we don't use our capacity to steer the car. If we're no longer the driver but the rider of a car, we will have completely different needs while commuting from A to B. So the question, what can we do with its time, and how can we do all the things we are used to do while we're at home or in an office, also in the situation while we commute, is one of the key questions to create value in that future autonomous car.
Speaking of questions, we are going to go to the audience because I think they can challenge you a little bit deeper with some of this content. So let's see, do we have any questions from the audience or online? Yes? Wonderful. Els, what do we have?
Lots of interesting questions, and some have already been answered in the meantime, so it was almost like you sensed the questions and addressed them immediately. An interesting one. Are car companies going even further and build rudimentary interiors without screens, but make use of VR headsets to offer full or ultimate customization and further immersive experiences?
Immersive experiences. Who wants that one?
I can take it.
Great. It's a predict the future one.
We all have been in situations, not sitting behind the driver's wheel, but sitting in the next seat or in the back seat and feeling uncomfortable how the way the driver drives the car. The software of the future will detect if you're happy or unhappy. We'll be able to recognize that and adjust the driving mode to our experience we want to create, and create that positive feeling, which we sometimes don't have while we sit on the wrong seat. And that's definitely a benefit for a lot of people in a car.
Feels like we're moving towards that machine learning AI kind of component, aren't we?
Yeah. There will be more confidence. Mode awareness, you know what the car's doing. Your drunken driver maybe do something different. So you're more confident, more secure, more safe. Yeah. So that's it's better.
That makes me nervous when he says drunken driver. Let's move on to the next question.
We've already touched on the importance of 3D data and digital experiences. How would you say it should evolve to make experience building more scalable?
Frederick, I think this one's yours. And maybe Dirk's. We'll get to that.
I think you got a good point when you were talking about the infrastructure. If you think about the dream of a city mayor or territories, they would like to have this virtual twin of the city, basically. Everything modelized in 3D with the right behavior, so you can really monitor things. So we are still, I think, far from there, but we have some element. But what we can have already is a kind of system description, system of mobility, system of system description, which is much lighter in terms of description. It's more what we call 1D or 0D description, but that help really to define how everything should behave and should be connected together, at least from a functional point of view and operational point of view. And this will be maybe the first step to the scalability of having virtual twin everywhere, is to start but the system-seeking approach, think globally the things. And of course, this have to work with the manufacturer, because this is where you will have maybe to define some rules, some standards, how things needs to be connected, can be changed, and so on, for the benefit of the citizen, and not only for the benefit of the vehicle owner, actually.
These are the magic words for Dassault Systems, virtual twins everywhere. That's awesome. Dirk, did you want to add something to that?
Yes, I think it really comes back to the point from earlier on about the fast-moving digital value stream versus the slower-moving physical value stream, and having the vehicle API or digital twin as an abstraction between them. Because if you look at this, I think there's what I would call the long tail versus the short tail of opportunities, right? So the short tail are a small number of high-value type of applications, such as automated driving, where you can afford to actually have thousands of people working on this for a very long time, because it's a product that you can actually really sell at a high price to a very large number of people. But if you think about it, then in addition in order to scale this up. There's also a very large number of much smaller type of opportunities. I mean, think of an example. I don't know, you monitor the fill level of the washer fluid on the car, yeah, and then similar to getting, a new shipment of razor blades from your online shop, you get a replacement of the or replenishment of the wiper washing fluids. Yeah? So this is a much smaller opportunity. So you cannot afford to have so many people working on implementing this type of feature, and because we will not get as much revenue out of it. But then on the other hand, there are thousands, if not 10,000s of these smaller type of opportunities, and you will only be able to really realize these type of opportunities if we can shield away the complex physical value stream of the vehicle and have the purely digital value stream encapsulated with digital twin APIs and so on, and then have back to this creative potential of lots of developers, making it very easy for them to actually build these type of much smaller, long tail type of applications on top of it. And I think this is how we need to scale this: build an abstraction and then enable lots of developers and unleash their creative potential.
That's great, Dirk. Thank you so much. I think that really covers the fact that we still expect the foundational functionality of the car to function. And if we can move that forward while thinking about the long-term aspects, then that's fantastic. Martina, did we have any questions in the room? Tom has one.
Is this working? Yep. So this is a bit of a dangerous question because I don't know what the answer is going to be, and maybe I'm going to show myself up, but I'm going to ask it anyway because we've talked a lot about technology and we've talked a lot about business, and I wanted to ask a question about design. So if we imagine the process of developing these things, obviously being from Dassault Systèmes, we always think in 3D. We're thinking of a thing that looks like the thing we're actually making. But if we think about the interface towards the user who is experiencing these connected experiences, how much of that do we think is really going to be skeuomorphic? So how much of it is really going to look like the vehicle? How much of that projection of reality are we going to encounter in all of those interfaces, do you think? Or do you think they're going to be simpler? Do you think they're going to be more design-driven? Or do you think they will ultimately be technology representations of the real world because it's just easier for everyone to understand? What do you think?
He's looking at you, creator.
I am looking straight at you. I'm sorry to ask the question, but it's...
I'd like to take this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not that easy to answer because within the BMW group, we've got a lot of brands. And I don't know if you know the screens of Mini. There was a Bull Terrier close to the car. It has got sunglasses. It has got, snow in the front. So they try to be a more comic, a more community-like, gamification-like version of the product within the product. They ended that. I don't want to talk about why, but they ended it. And the rest of the brands, Rolls-Royce, BMW, M, and some others, maybe, they're getting really close to it. We were one of the enablers of that, because we enabled them to do all the colors of the car. We do 5 trim lines. We've got so much details on it. So the BMW way is at the moment, right forward, to do a copy, the best copy possible of the car. But the tires are different, or it's difficult, but we do the communicated one. So, but the trend is to reduce that, because of Android and other systems, because they can't afford a real-time model. And it's only possible to do it on a high class within the real-time model. So I'm on the side for the product, but there are others. But the design aspect is really, really important. And we talked before, we would never do any, oak things or real metal materials within the car, but the product itself should look like it. At least, sorry, but it's a long. I do it now for 20 years. you don't want to have a fancy car if it not fits in the parking place. You need the real one. So if the measures are not right, have fun.
Does that kind of answer the question, Tom? Yeah. Okay, great. Any other questions from in person? Yeah. Okay.
Hello, my name is Sasha. One question, I've been observing two trends in autonomous car development. One like a Tesla, who are trying to build the most intelligent car. And one kind that is developing is how to develop the car that's driving through the infrastructure and find the easiest way to using the services of infrastructure in the cities. What do you think? What will be the trends that will be in the future?
I feel like this one's you too.
I can start and please add.
Yeah.
We see both developments going on currently. In China, that it's more the collaboration between the car and the infrastructure to make that kind of autonomous levels possible. In the Western world, we'll have more the car having all the intelligence on board to be able to steer on their own if necessary. So we see both developments, and it's also part of this ecosystem discussion I started before. We have different ways of dealing with the intelligence and controlling intelligence in the different areas of our planet. And car manufacturers need to be aware, and we need to be able to develop both philosophies if they want to sell the cars around the world.
You had mentioned this earlier, so.
Yeah, it's really the autonomous capability have slowed down since a few years, compared to what we were saying 4 or 5 years ago. But it's not true for utilities, for truck, for all utility things and so on. There is tons of developments that are done right now to make them autonomous, or at least to have one driver and maybe 4 or 5 trucks that are following the first one. So and this is possible because they are going through highways, they are going through very well defined routes, and you can even plan the routes according to this kind of constraints. So maybe it's a little bit slowed down, especially in Europe for personal vehicle. Maybe not in China. I agree. In US, they have the chance to have a big highway with nobody on it, so they can do it. But more generally, on utility, truck, and so on, it's happening right now. Yes.
Fantastic.
You also can see different strategies for the car manufacturers. I'm sure you also have recognized Neon launched a new car here in Europe coming from China, and they have all the technology which is necessary to get the next 2 levels of autonomy already in the car. So they're prepared. Some others are not so foresighted.
But it takes some time.
And it takes some, especially for the legislation to come.
The Dream 25 would be on level 5 autonomous driving. I think it's gone.
I was really looking forward to it. No. Else, do we have anything else from online? Oh, we have another one in person. Great. Yeah, we're not going to get to all the questions. I'm sure there's lots of them, but we'll try to do that after the fact. But
we haven't spoken about the business aspects of in the car. So what is your look into the future? Will all be cars physically fully equipped with everything, and we just swipe the credit card when we use certain features? Or will we still have the selection with the classic car configurators? I need this, this, and this, and turn this one off, and do the selection up front. So what will the car of the future encompass?
I would say it depends. There are some times, especially if Fukushima, you remember Fukushima, BMW sold devices high for low. So we've got a better cluster, the big cluster in the car, because the customer is satisfied, because the mid or low ranges were not available because of Fukushima. So this complete enabling and open up after you're paying with your credit card or something is quite, it costs a lot of money. But I can't speak for the car manufacturer, but I think they won't do it on a greater scale because it's just too expensive. BMW is selling 2.4 million cars, just see the amount of cars. It's just too expensive. But maybe the smaller brands could that do more often or earlier than the bigger premium brands. A Peugeot can amazingly much against the VW or BMW. So it depends, on my opinion. But
did anybody else catch that he swiped the credit card instead of tapping it? Just yeah, old school. I'm telling you, we've still got a way to go. I believe we have 1 minute left. So is there any last question before we continue? And then we'll do a wrap up of last words. Yeah.
So I have a short question because you just mentioned about that the car will become the platform, and today a lot of automotive OEMs, especially German ones, they have complex cars. So the physical car is complex, but do you think that in the future the physical car will become less complex and the complexity and the personalization will come from the software?
I'm going to give Frederick this one because he said earlier it's going to be commoditized.
Yeah, you see, if you look at the concept cars that are on the market right now, they are done for that. They are much simpler, lighter already because of energy consumption, and much more simple to be able to replace part easily, buy the other one, and to have a long life. So the electrification, the simplification of the electronics through less ECUs, more software, and so on, make everything in that direction that technically it will become less complex. So which means also more OEM manufacturer on the market, and we see that, how many startups are existing today because of electrification, and it's a general trend, globally. So I fully agree. Yes.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you for the questions. We do need to wrap up, so I'm going to come to you first, Dirk. I'd love to hear your final takeaways. I know you have some great ones prepared. So final takeaways for the audience, please.
Yeah, I think everything we discussed today was really important, and especially, the ability to, as we discussed earlier on, utilize digital twin concepts to build new digital values on top of it, and improve really the vehicle experience is going to be a key topic for us in the next couple of years to come.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I remember you saying that digital and physical design will be codified from the beginning, and I made a note of it because I thought that was such a great way to describe how the digital twin data will be used in the future. So thank you so much, Dirk. Frederick.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about software and connectivity, but we should not forget, that there is a big topic, which is the cyber security, because here we are talking about cars, with people in cars, and cyber security, I think, is already, but will be even more important in the coming years, because you cannot do everything, with cars, so you have to be careful about that as well.
Thank you so much for your industry perspective. Hans.
As a marketing guy, I'm really happy about the digital twin, because in the past I had to wait to sell a car till it was physically ready. Now I can use the first digital mock-up to talk to customers and get their feedback even during the process of development to make it really fit to the market needs. But the best concept you can have at the moment.
Great, thank you so much. And Andreas, I did look on your LinkedIn and there was a quote there that I thought was really funny. It's not your fault the world is the way it is. It's only your fault if it stays that way. So how can our audience, final comment, make sure they get the future of mobility that they want?
Very good question. I don't know. Be curious, do what you love, don't think what's possible, just do what you want to achieve and make it happen. This is on the other side. The other side is, it's not predictable. Just remember 3 years ago, come on, we thought, a little flu from China. Come on, guys. Our life, our world changed. So I can't even predict in what kind of car we will sit in 10 years. Are we flying? Well, I don't know. But everything is changing on a high speed. Yeah. So, but every one of us can do a little bit to change the world to a better place. And that's my focus. We try.
Fantastic. On those positive words, I'm going to say thank you to all the panelists. Thank you, Dirk, for joining us from Detroit. And thank you to 3D Experience Lab and the 3DEXCITE team. We'll see you next time for the next 3D Ignite. Thanks so much.